Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I would like to welcome you to yet another in the series of our Humanist TV Africa, brought to you by the Humanist Media Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I will always call upon you to applaud Humanist Media Africa for giving us this opportunity to bridge gaps with you on the Humanist TV Africa, a consumer segment that touches all of us and impacts us. So we are in here to deliberate with you very key aspects. Since the month of March, colleagues, wherever you are, we are looking at sustainable life. The campaign that we started with, and the theme for this year as the Global Consumer Movement, was a just transition into us realizing sustainable sustainable lifestyles. But we resolve to continue with this theme and laying and grounding sustainable life. We ended April, and we are starting May, looking at sustainable lifestyles at stake. It was consumers' responsibility last month, some time back. Last week, we looked at sustainable lifestyle at stake. What will we eat tomorrow? That was a question to us all. And again, this month, we are starting the month. Today, 2nd May, we are looking at sustainable lifestyle stake. Just imagining you are sustainable. You are taking on the zero waste. You have taken on responsible consumption. You have campaigned and advocated for responsible production. But ladies and gentlemen, we are faced with a challenging vice. As in production, as in public health, as in human, as in business, we need to mitigate contaminants, we need to mitigate hazards, we need to mitigate anything that impedes economic and social development. So under that, in agriculture, there is pests and diseases. In health, there are viruses, there are pathogenics, there are everything, and we use public health chemicals, products to safeguard us. In agriculture, they use plant protection products, animal health products, environmental health products. But we find ourselves that we are challenged as human beings and as consumers, as businesses. So today, that's why we are going into the topic, joining the other global world that is concerned with chemical abuse, pesticide abuse. But as we roll out integrated pesticide management, pesticide and disease management, they are products that are acceptable, and once used responsibly, they can safeguard us. But then there is another reality of highly hazardous pesticides that are affecting us not only as human beings, affecting the environment, affecting the products, but even affecting future population, given that they affect reproductive health. So today, we just want to go beyond the ordinary. We want to navigate the realities of highly hazardous pesticides used in Africa. Where if you're not in Africa, just put your name of your continent, because portions, aspects, residues of highly hazardous pesticides are within our water system, our environment, in the air we breathe, in many other aspects we use for humanity. So today, that's why we want to navigate that. And more to that, it is not going to be the usual one where we bring in facts, but we are going to bring in extra facts, navigate and see where these highly hazardous pesticides are banned and why are they in our midst. Having said that, I wish to start with my famous, it isn't my writing, but I always want it to ground it, lay it as a principle. And this leads us to the aspect. And one of the aspects that it leads us to is the aspect where we need to respect our environment. We live in diversity, but it's the environment that hosts us. The environment keeps us roaring. The environment keeps us going. The environment is our driver. The environment is doing us every good. And we have different initiatives. The One Planet, the One Health, where in One Health, we look at humans, we look at the environment, we look at the animals, we look at crop. All these, once they are living in that ecosystem and they are healthy, we are assured of having a One Health. We're assured of having the one planet that is healthy, because we do not have planet B. And that's why we are striving. That's why we are continuously advocating, educating, building capacity, and also calling on to research to address things that do not nourish the environment we live in. So that said, colleagues, I would like to reread, because this was going to be the fourth series that I'm laying a lot of emphasis on this. And I will just do it fast and going into some other aspects. It goes, when we create a healthy environment, whether it is our bodies, minds, or surroundings, we set ourselves up for optimum growth and well-being. In the context of plants, healthy soil, adequate nutrients, and proper care, we can help them thrive. Those are the plants. Similarly, when we prioritize our physical and mental health, we can become more resilient, productive, and better equipped to handle life challenges. This mindset can be applied in various areas of life, including 1, personal growth, nurturing a healthy mindset, emotions, and relationships can help us grow as individuals. Businesses and career. It helps fostering a healthy work environment with positive company culture can lead to growth and success. 3, communities. Building healthy, inclusive, and supportive communities can help them thrive. Fellow consumers, wherever you're a policymaker, a legislature, a regulator, a business, whether you're in civil society, a religious leader, you're in the media, remember a healthy foundation is essential for growth, development, and essential in all aspects of life. Colleagues, why I am continuously reading this, it is grounded. It is going to be grounded in all the discussions. And like it is not the usual TV program we have, the TV series, we are going to go into technical aspects. And you are going to see how you relate them to your person, you relate them to your business, you relate them to community, and you see how we need to nurture a healthy environment. We need to nourish it with responsible production, responsible consumption. Having said that, I would like to remind us and lead you into what we need as SDG 12. We need to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. As we are navigating the realities of highly hazardous pesticide use, are we ensuring responsible consumption and production patterns? These are the questions we need now to ask us as we are going to dig deep into its use in Africa. SDG 12 categorizes, and as we are ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns. With our planet has provided us with abundance of natural resources, but we have not utilized them responsibly and currently consume far beyond what our planet can provide. We must learn how to use and produce in sustainable ways that will reverse the harm that we have inflicted on the planet. The SDG 12 has a number of targets, but one of the targets, which is 12.1, implement a 10-year sustainable consumption and production framework. In this, there are elements for government, elements for businesses, and the framework. All countries need to take action and look into how best to contain aspects that are not sustainable. When we look at target 12.2, sustainable management and use of natural resources, as we navigate the reality of highly hazardous pesticides, do they enable us to sustainably manage and use natural resources? Because we may by 2020, 2030 achieve sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources. If we look at 12.3, have the global per capita food waste. This one I will not delve in a lot, but I would like to delve into target 12.4, responsible management of chemicals and waste. It was 5 years ago saying by 2020, achieve the environmental sound management of chemicals and all wastes throughout their life cycle in accordance with agreed international frameworks, and significantly reduce their release in the air water, and soil in order to minimize their adverse impact on human health and the environment. We are going to delve in target 12.4 as we are navigating the realities of highly hazardous pesticide use in Africa. I would like to go to target 12.5, sustainably reduce waste generation. By 2030, substantially reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse. We are going to navigate on that, as Bernard will be sharing. Let's go to 12.6, encouraging companies to adopt sustainable practices and sustainability reporting. Encourage companies, especially large and transnational companies, to adopt sustainable practices and to integrate sustainability information into their reporting cycles. We are going to look at the source of the highly hazardous pesticides that are banned in countries of origin and they come into Africa. Are those companies sustainable? I would like to look at 12.7. Promote sustainable public procurement practices. Promote public procurement practices that are sustainable in accordance with national policies and priorities. We are going to see, as highly hazardous pesticides are exported, and through public procurement, the duty bearers, do they consent for them to come into our country? Do they take on their responsibility once they are in the country so that there is responsible use? If there is an emergency and you allow in highly hazardous product to address that emergency, how are you managing the after effect? All this is in SDG 12. 12.8, promote universal understanding of sustainable lifestyles. And this is what we are doing. By 2030, ensure that people everywhere have got relevant information and awareness for sustainable development and lifestyles in harmony with nature. So, ladies and gentlemen, even if I stop here, I've shown you those targets and how we are relating them. I'll go on with our next series to see, but let me bring in 12.9. Support the developing countries' scientific and technical capacities in sustainable production, consumption and production, supporting developing countries to strengthen their scientific and technological capacity to move towards more sustainability, more sustainable patterns of consumption and production. And today, we wish to build the capacities so that we have got the knowledge, we have got the technical capacities to understand the vagaries of the highly hazardous pesticides use. And it will be very key if I read target 12.A, develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable development. This is beyond, but let's look at 12.1 to 9. And these are very key, and these are going to be some of our basis today. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, as we are running this TV series, we are running it along the global, regional, and national conventions, protocols, not to fight business, but to promote better business for consumer protection, safety, quality of life, resilience, and sustainability, where it requires us to plan, do, check, and act. And we are acting because evidence shows that highly hazardous pesticides are impacting us as consumers, they're impacting businesses, and on top of it, impacting the environment. That said, we have continuously done the assessment, planned, implemented awareness. We continuously evaluate to bring about a resilience. And this is where we thank the Humanist Media TV, and Humanist Media Africa for giving us this opportunity. And you, the listeners, the viewers, the followers, use this, spread it. So as I conclude, to bring in Bernard to give us the technicality, each and every country has got a set, whether it is obsolete, whether it is weak, whether it is inadequate or limited, but it has a policy framework of some sort. It has policy framework of some sort. But the question is, why do we have this policy framework of some sort and we leave it to waste by not implementing it? Who is responsible? This is where today we would love to give you the awareness, to sensitize you, to build your capacity so that you advocate. We cannot advocate the few of us. We need to advocate many of us in millions to make sure that we have a resilient environment. We have got resilient consumer health. We have got resilient businesses that are producing responsibly and we are consuming responsibly. So who has to implement these regulations to guide responsible use of pesticides? Implement the withdrawal of highly hazardous pesticides from use. So ladies and gentlemen, that was my long curtain rise. But I thought grounding the issues would be something very key. I'm grounding the issues from my lay perspective, but now I would love to have a colleague, Bernard, to ground the issues, to navigate the realities, bringing in the technical perspective. So once again, you are all most welcome, and we thank our colleagues at Humanist Media Africa. And at this point in time, I would like to welcome Bernard. You are in an environment that seems that it isn't sprayed, it is green, and it is healthy. It looks beachish, but I see the winds. They must be clean. Have you seen any bees? All that the area is sprayed and there is no biodiversity that can nourish the environment. So Bernard, the floor is yours. Please lead us through and empower us. Give us the capacity, give us the knowledge, and then let us advocate for our safer continent. Please go ahead, Bernard.
Well, thank you, Henry, for I don't know how to call it. Is it the curtain rise or the preamble that you've given? Let me know if you are seeing my screen. Henry, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it. You can put it in the slide mode now.
Okay. Is that okay?
I've not yet gone to the presentation mode.
Okay, so on my side, somehow it is on the presentation mode. So hopefully you should be able to
Okay,
see
go
it.
ahead, please.
Okay, so thank you so much. As we are talking about aspects of sustainability, I really want us to focus on issues of food systems, but looking at the pesticide issues and also looking at the highly hazardous nature of the pesticides that we're using in Africa. And of course, to begin with, I wanted to share with us that currently there are lots of narratives behind the food system that we are dealing with today. And one of the narratives surrounds aspects of climate change. We know that currently a lot of messaging, a lot of awareness, a lot of monies are being invested to curb the issues around climate change. And there's a connotation that climate change is affecting production of food, etc., etc. And I think we need also further to reflect on why the climate change, where is it coming from? But we know that that is one of the issues that is propelling the aspect of pesticide use. So there are lots of highly hazardous pesticides that are coming on board, basically to address the issues of climate change. The other issue is around pesticide, or rather pests and diseases. So there's a lot of information, there's a lot of narrative behind pests and diseases. And of course, behind the climate change issues, we realize that, of course, pests have also become more resistant. We have also seen that diseases of plants and animals are now also thriving in the weather, in the climate that we are living in. So there's a whole narrative on pests and diseases. And because of this, of course, we see scientists coming up with solutions to address the pests and diseases and also the issue of climate change. But also, we've seen aspects of agricultural yields. Every country is talking about how do we improve the agricultural yield? How do we make sure that we produce very big tomatoes? How do we make sure that we produce very big onions? How do we make sure we produce very big? So it's about agriculture yields, really. And then lastly, it's an aspect of food security. Everyone is talking about, the population is now big, and so we have to improve the food security. We have to make sure that everyone has food, etc. So these four narratives are actually driving the pesticide sector. It is driving the scientists to come up with lots of highly hazardous pesticides. Just like you can see that because of the pests and diseases and the climate change issues and the food security narratives, and now we see pesticide shops all over, agrochemicals coming up everywhere, even at the doorsteps of villages down there. So there's a whole narrative that is talking about these things, and then the solution has been thought about quickly by some scientists to be pesticides, and more so the highly hazardous pesticides, unfortunately. So we want to dive into really these aspects. As Henry has been talking about sustainability, are pesticides or highly hazardous pesticides a sustainable solution to managing pests and diseases and improving climate change and whatever? Is it the best solution? So that is what we are trying to navigate through. So Henry, just to be sure that my slides are moving, just checking in to see if my slides are moving.
You're still on the current narrative behind food systems.
Oh, okay. So I need, I think, to first and share because my slides. Okay, let me try to unshare again because my slides are moving very fast. I thought you are also moving. Okay, let me just reshare. Okay, which slide are you now seeing?
We are not yet okay. They Dennis is saying there is a slide provide sorter.
All right, so I don't know. I don't know
Okay,
if you are.
he says stay in that mode. Go
Okay,
on.
fine. So you should be able to see a slide on what is a pest,
What is
right?
a pest?
All right. So when you look at the way different people are defining pests, because they are the reason why we're talking about pesticides. So I thought that maybe we could be able to define for our viewers what actually a pest is. But when you look at the photos I've provided down there, they show you the different pests. So these pests could be any species that you see around, but their major role is really to, they should be injurious to plants and plant animals, rather plant products or materials. And basically, a pest is anything that is injurious to a plant or maybe to an animal or to plant products or materials or even to the environment. So it means that we can have pests that are called plant pests. These ones basically attack the plants. We can also have pests that attack the animals. We can have also the pests that actually attack the microorganisms, or call them pathogenic agents, etc. So every time we are talking about the issue of pests, we need to think about what are these pests, why these particular pests. So we shall see that because of the increasing pests, different pests, we see that now scientists have come up with what we are calling now a pesticide. So a pesticide is like a substance which can either be a mixture of substances or it can be a single substance of chemicals, or some of them could be biological actually. But their intention, a pesticide's intention, is to repel or destroy or control any form of pests that could be coming around. But also, some pesticides are basically meant for regulating plant growth. Still, FAO and WHO give us that version. So when you talk about a pesticide, every time I'm going to mention the word pesticide, this has to come into your mind that you're talking about those substances or a mixture of substances that are meant, one, to repel pests, meaning that when a pest is coming, this pesticide should be able to repel it so that it doesn't come closer. So those substances that deter pests from coming to your garden or from to your animals, that can be a form of pesticide. Others actually don't even just repel, they actually destroy. That when you spray it on a pest, it must be destroyed. So other pesticides are doing the role of destroying those pests. So destroying in the sense that they will kill them. So if you find an insect on a plant and you spray it, it will die. So that is another form of some bit of pesticides. But also others control pests. So these ones are basically substances that basically manage the pesticide population. So if you have 1 million pests and then you apply a particular pesticide, it can actually control or manage the population of the pests. So all of these are different versions that you could look at a pesticide. And then also, of course, there are those that specifically regulate plant growth. So those could be the substances that are now on our market that actually affect plant development. So they kind of regulate plant, they regulate plant growth or regulate growth of plants. Now, there are different pesticides on the market these days, quite a number of different pesticides. One of the pesticides that you could find on the market, if you just moved randomly on the market, you'll find what we call herbicides. I will explore that. Herbicides. These are the pesticides whose major role actually is killing weeds or killing unwanted plants. So basically, if you don't want to dig and you're going to plant, the season is starting, just get a herbicide and you just pour it on the grass and the grasses will just dry. I think one of the examples will be glyphosate or Roundup. So you just get it and pour it there and all the plants just dry. So those are herbicides. We could also have other pesticides in form of insecticides. So insecticides are those substances that are actually used primarily to kill insects. So for them, they have made in a way that when you put it on a pest, which is an insect, it has to die. So for them, they kill insects. And then we have also others like fungicides. Those ones are really responding to fungus. And then others are bactericides to basically deal with bacteria. So there are quite a number of other pesticides that we could be talking about. Now, our focus today is looking at exploring the pesticide concerns in Africa, and specifically we are looking at the highly hazardous pesticides that we are actually using in Africa. We know that while pesticides are known, of course, wherever they are known as remedies to pests, to diseases in agriculture, what we are realizing in Africa is a little bit different. In Africa, most of the pesticides that we are using are actually categorized as highly hazardous, meaning that they are not safe for use, as I'm going to explore. So the pesticides have been made in different countries in Europe, in America, wherever they are being made, and then they are being sent to Africa. And what we see is that most of the products that are sent in Africa are just not pesticides. Of course, we know that they are pesticides, they will work very effectively on pests, but the WHO and FAO categorization, which we also call, we also have what we call the globally harmonized system on pesticides, has actually categorized most of the products that we are using in Uganda as highly hazardous, meaning that the pesticides that we are using now in Africa, majority of them, more than half of them actually, in some countries they even go up to 75%, are highly hazardous. We're going into that to discover what that is. And the other surprising thing is that some of those highly hazardous pesticides that are commonly used in African states have actually been banned in the EU or in the countries where they are coming from, unfortunately. So if the manufacturing country cannot use this product, why then would you use it in Africa is the question that we have. And so in this presentation also, I'll be speaking about which agrochemicals are being used in Africa. Which ones are they? People are now complaining in the media. Some scientists are saying, no, civil society is causing alarm for nothing. We're just deceiving ourselves. I'm going to prove to us which chemicals we are using. And of course, I will also share with you where they come from. I am very interested also to sharing with you whether those chemicals that we are using in Africa are actually used in their countries of origin, and also whether they are safe or not, and also what is their health implication and what is their implication on the environment. Now, I am going to give some bit of scenarios. I want to give a scenario of Kenya and Uganda so that maybe we try to bring Africa a little bit closer to us. Now, if you look at Kenya, for instance, the farmers in Kenya used a total of 310 pesticide products containing 151 active ingredients. This is as of last year. So rather in 2023, one of the studies conducted in Kenya noticed that actually in Kenya, farmers were exposed to 310 pesticide products. And in these products, we are talking about active ingredients in those products running up to around about 151. So there is a whole report available for this, which was published in 2023. But you see, also, we see that when it comes to the tonnage, farmers applied a total volume of about 3,068 tons of pesticide products to control, of course, insects and disease and weeds and whatever. Now, this is the tonnage, 3,000 tons. This is what the farmers were using in 2023 for controlling insects. Now, when you look at that tonnage, it should be telling you something. 3,000 tons used by farmers in Kenya alone. Just this is Kenya alone. So when you add farmers of Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Burundi, Sudan, etc., you'll see the amount of pesticides that are being used. And unfortunately, when you look at the amount of money that the farmers are actually investing in the pesticides, in Kenya alone in 2023, farmers spend $72 million in buying pesticides. $72.7 million. That is the total cost in Kenya that was used to actually purchase these products. Now, the other interesting thing, I tried to break it a little bit. So if you look at Kenya, the insecticides, these ones to kill the insects, they used $28.2 million. For the herbicides, just spraying the weeds so that they just dry, they spent 26 million US dollars. And for the fungicides, Kenyans spend 18.1 million US dollars on fungicides. So this is what gives you the total of the 70 million that I was talking about a little bit up there. Now, this is just a context. Now, this is what is most surprising. What is surprising is that out of the 310 pesticide products that I've just talked about up there, 63% of them are categorized as highly hazardous, meaning that more than half of the chemical compounds that were used by farmers in Kenya in 2023, which is barely 1 year ago or 2 years ago, they were categorized as highly hazardous pesticides. So you can imagine that you have a community that is farming. They are using pesticides, of course, to improve production, but more than half of them, this is 63% of them, are highly hazardous. Now, what does this mean? It just basically indicates that majority of the farmers in Kenya predominantly use highly hazardous pesticides. Of course, despite the detrimental effects that we know on health of the people. Now, worse still is that out of these pesticides that we talked about, 44% of the total volume of pesticides used in Kenya, for instance, are not used in the EU. They are banned in the EU, of course, due to their unacceptable risk to human health and the environment. They are not used, but the guys are using them. So you can imagine you have about 195 products that are highly hazardous, and 44% of those are not used in the countries where they come from. So why should they be fit for use in Kenya if they cannot be fit for use in Europe? This is the question of the double standards that we are talking about. So because we don't have the capacity maybe to regulate them, maybe to test them or whatever, why should the EU use that advantage to actually force the farmers to unsustainably produce? We're talking about 44%. It's actually running closer to half of the farmers that are, rather of the pesticides that are actually banned in the EU, and they are being used in Kenya. Of course, these are some of the common products that Kenyans use. If you look at them, I will try to show you a little bit later, but these are the top HPPs that are used in Kenya. All of these are actually banned in the EU. Now, when you look at one of the sad realities is that these highly hazardous pesticides in Kenya specifically, they cover an area. This is acreage. So the highly hazardous insecticides, for instance, cover an area of 635,350 acres of land. This is what they are. This is the amount of land under attack by the highly hazardous pesticides. So you see, it's a whole mess that we need to deal with in the African context. And who are the suppliers? Of course, in Kenya alone, they have about 73 companies that supply these pesticides. However, only few, about 5 of them are, let me say, they are bulky. For instance, if you look at Syngenta, is taking 20% of the market in Kenya. If you look at Bayer, it is taking about 15%. If you look at Cotiva, it is taking about 7.7%. If you look at FMC, it is taking about 5%. And then if you look at Adama, it is taking 4.4%. So you see that companies, five companies are taking more than 50% of the market. So it means that these others, well, they are there, but they are just contributing 50%. Just imagine 73, but 5 are taking more than half. And these are corporate, of course, entities from Europe, Switzerland, from Germany, from US, from Israel. But also, what is very funny here is that 68%, which is still more than half, 68% of the products that, for instance, Syngenta provides in Kenya are highly hazardous. So you see that 68% of the products provided by one company are highly hazardous. But now it is even worse for Bayer. 84% of the products of Bayer are actually highly hazardous in Kenya. So you see that there is a whole controversy when it comes to sustainability issues, etc. Now let us also look at bio solutions. So for instance, in Kenya, biopesticides. Do we have biopesticides in Africa? Yes, they are. But if you look at the chemicals that are registered in Kenya, out of the 310 that I talked about earlier, only 6 are biopesticides. Only 6. So just imagine 6 out of 310. What that means is that 304 are synthetically produced chemicals, while only 6 are biopesticides. But also, what does this mean? That sustainable biopesticides account for only 2% of the total pesticide volume used in Kenya. Only 2%. So the rest of the 98% are basically synthetics. And so there is a whole mess there. Now, the other interesting thing is that most of the biopesticides, which are safer for use, that are used in Kenya, are actually being used in production of beans, and especially French beans, because of the export demand. The export says, no, for us, we want beans that are produced with the organic or biopesticides. And so you see that most of our farmers in Kenya who are producing beans for export are the ones using the biopesticides. So the question is that, why should we produce with bio or sustainable means for export, and we cannot produce the same for our own consumption? That is the question we need to reflect on. Now, let us also use the example of Uganda quickly. This is Kenya. I'm just trying to look at now the different countries, but let us maybe explore Uganda. Now, Uganda, of course, has a lot of regulatory, a lot of policy around pesticides. Well, the framework exists, but while this exists, what has been done in reality is that we see an increase in the usage of pesticides between 2010 and 2022. We see that there has been a shift, almost double, of the usage of pesticides in the country. If you look at that graph, you realize that while in 2010 we're talking about 2,990 tons, now we're talking about 6,000 tons for the case of Uganda. And similarly, the money that is being used in the imports of these pesticides has also increased, actually more than doubled in the last 10 years. But what is interesting is that when you go to the register of agricultural chemicals in Uganda, we have registered 115 chemicals, active ingredients, which has been repackaged in 669 brands. This is available information that you can get. But what is surprising is that of all these registered brands and ingredients, we note that actually 47% of the legally registered active ingredients in Uganda are actually highly hazardous. Highly hazardous. And then also, when you look at the brands, we're talking about 669 brands which are registered in Uganda, but you realize that 459 of them, which is about 68% of the registered brands, they are also highly hazardous. So what are we even talking about? That more than half of every chemicals we use in Uganda are actually highly hazardous. I have tried to provide the list of those pesticides here, which you can always refer to, and I'm going to check them in the system while you're seeing. Maybe we shall check a few of them a little later. Now, what is also surprising in Uganda is that more than half, we are talking about 65.5% of the agrochemicals used in Uganda that are actually highly hazardous are not approved for use in the EU. So for us in Uganda, for instance, we're only using 34% of chemicals that can be used in countries where they come from. The rest we are using, which is 65.5% of what we are actually using, can never be used in the countries where they are made. So the lists are also available for. I know that some people have been claiming that we are causing chaos and whatever, but these lists are existing. We can drive them from the register of Uganda. So all these chemicals are very available. The lists are very available. But I wanted also to tell our viewers about, we've been talking about highly hazardous pesticides, but what does the globally harmonized system on pesticides and the WHO, how do they define this highly hazardous pesticide so that we act, we act in, we move together. Now, according to WHO and the globally harmonized system, which all these countries agreed upon, they define highly hazardous pesticides as those pesticides that are acknowledged to present particularly high levels of acute or chronic hazards to health or the environment. So when we talk about highly hazardous pesticides, what are we talking about? We're talking about those pesticides that have been acknowledged globally to present high levels of acute. Acute means the moment you have it, you have access or exposure to it, it will cause trouble to you. Or chronic. Chronic means that it can take longer to manifest the effects. But we are saying that there are those which have high levels of acute or chronic hazards to your health or the health of the environment. That is what the globally internationally acceptable classification defines the highly hazardous pesticide. The same system goes on to say that all pesticides that appear to cause severe, irreversible harm to health or the environment under conditions of use in a country can also be considered as highly hazardous. Anything that appears to cause severe or irreversible harm either to health or the environment, they are also considered to be highly hazardous. So whenever Mr. Chimera and the colleagues are talking about highly hazardous, that's what you're talking about. And of course, I don't want to take you through this because we can do it a little bit practically, but this is the globalized, harmonized system that came in force around 1992. And they developed, these guys developed a system for all countries that we're going to use to know which chemical is supposed to go to the market and which one is not supposed to go to the market. So as of 2203 in 2003, the globalized harmonized system was published and was put out there to the community to be able to follow through which chemical has been accepted. By the way, this system was developed for 10 years, where each chemical was studied and agreed upon which one has to be used, which are not to be used, etc. So this system is very available and we are going to look at it. But the purpose of this system was to facilitate trade, assuring that international trade is conducted but by harmonizing chemical regulation, that all the chemicals must be regulated the same way. Secondly, it was about hazard communication, that this system provides a clear system for communicating chemical hazards internationally, that we have the same language we are using on the same chemical across the world. Not that every country has their own definition. All countries have the same communication on the same product, but also to provide a framework for countries, of course. uh, Countries that don't have the ability to measure, to test, whatever, they are sorted in this kind of system because the system is setting thresholds for each of the chemicals. And of course, lastly, was about reducing the testing issues to aim at minimizing the excessive chemical testing. So you have only one test globally, and that is it. So that is the system that we are talking about, that you need to use to actually be able to navigate these pesticides. So uh, now, according to this system, they have set up a criteria for highly hazardous pesticides. And one of the criteria is that highly hazardous pesticides are carcinogenic, meaning that if you have exposure to these chemicals, which are highly hazardous in nature, they can actually cause cancer to you as an individual or your family. That is one criteria, which is set in that globalized, harmonized system, which all countries are supposed to use. And the criteria is that for highly hazardous pesticides, which I've defined earlier, that they are carcinogenic. Some of them are carcinogenic, meaning that they can cause cancer. I am going to show you some of them. Secondly, the criteria tells us that some of them are mutagenic. I'll also share with you an example of mutagenic. Mutagenic means that this chemical, when you have exposure to it, it can change or it can alter your DNA. Your DNA is your genetic makeup, what makes you you. So when you see Bernard, what makes Bernard Bernard is the DNA. But they are telling us that particular chemicals under this category can change or can alter your DNA. The other is that they are reproductive toxicants, meaning that they can cause abortions, they can damage unborn children, they can make people infertile, they can make people impotent if they have high exposure to them. That is another criteria. This is not rocket science. It is written in the globalized, harmonized system. Others are endocrine disruptors. Endocrine system is the system of your body that produces or regulates your hormones. Now they are telling us that some of these HPPs or highly hazardous pesticides are actually having the potential to disrupt your system that makes the hormones. These are not my words, it is present there. Others are fatal when inhaled, meaning that when you inhale a particular HHP, it can cause death to you, or it can lead to organ failure or organ damage of your body organs. Others are toxic to bees. What that means, it means that once the environment is having high exposure to these HHPs, then we risk losing the bees because they are toxic to the bees. So bees can die when they start inhaling these. And that's why it is difficult now to see a swarm of bees relocating from one place to another because of a lot of spraying that has happened in our communities. And then others are highly toxic to aquatic organisms. What this means is that once these chemicals get access to water, the life underwater is compromised. So they are very toxic to fish and to other animals in the water. And then others are extremely hazardous. Now, these ones, they're not even highly hazardous, but they're extremely hazardous. So that is according now to the globalized, harmonized system, which brings all countries at the same pace. That if a chemical is carcinogenic, it shouldn't be marketed. If it is mutagenic, shouldn't be marketed. If it is reproductive toxicant, it shouldn't be marketed. So now, the chemicals that are meeting this criteria that I've taken you through, those are the ones now that have been sent to Africa, as I've just shown you up there, which shows a double standard between Africa and the EU. Why must we send what is poisonous, what is carcinogenic, what is mutagenic, what is reproductive toxicant, what is endocrine disruptors, what is fatal, what is toxic to bees, what is aquatic, what is highly toxic to bees, and we bring it to Africa? And so, what are those countries, the top countries in Africa that are actually victims? Morocco, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Algeria, Tunisia, Kenya, Sudan, Cameroon, Zambia. These are the top 10 importing countries. But then we have, of course, I can give you a list up to the 50th, whatever, but this is the top 10. And the exporting countries, of course, that are bringing these things, we are talking about Germany, we're talking about Spain, we're talking about Italy, we're talking about Belgium, Denmark, France, Greece, Hungary, Netherlands, Bulgaria. These are the top 10 exporting countries of these things. And of course, these are the top companies that are also bringing these things. We're talking about Tris, Syngenta. So these are the kind of the top 10 big boys who are actually bringing these things to us. Now, maybe before I go into a little bit the practicum, it's unfortunate that all of us are exposed to these chemicals in different ways, in water, in food, in the air we breathe, etc. When you look at the exposure, how are people exposed? Women are the victims in this thing because they are always in the farms down there innocently spraying. But you see the way they are mixing the chemical. Their nose is closer. If you look at the first photograph there, the nose is just closer to the mixing, whatever. Their hands are bare, their face is bare, so they have the ability to actually sink in the chemical in their noses. Look at this other woman, all this. So people have a lot of exposure because one, they lack the information, they are not well informed, they have no protection gear, and they are just spraying. And these are our mothers, these are the future generation. What about in the kitchen? You find people with empty bottles of pesticides now in the kitchen. Now imagine these are highly hazardous pesticides, but in bottles, the bottles are available in the kitchen where food is being prepared. And some of these containers, because these mothers are not informed, they are not aware, they are ignorantly about these things, they end up putting salt, sugar, tea leaves, oil in these bottles of pesticides. And these are available in their kitchens. And so you see the rate of exposure is really very, very high. What about this particular photo? I've shown it before, where in July 2021 in Durban, in South Africa, one of the warehouses that were actually having pesticides burnt to ashes. So when it burnt, look at how the environment was polluted. Remember, we're talking about sustainability. Look at this massive smoke, which took around about 1 month. And of course, some of the residues, of course, had to move to the water bodies. You see the water changing color, but people are fetching it, people are taking it home to cook. And look at the second photo right down there. You see this is fish, meaning that the chemicals went into the water source, and the water source had fish and other aquatic life. And this, we see fish just dying like that. And now, mind you, there are some consumers perhaps who will find this fish on the river shore or the lake shore, and they wouldn't know that maybe this was because of the contamination of the water by a pollutant, and they keep carrying this fish and they go and cook it, and at the end of the day they have a share of that, and they get complications, others die. What about the way we throw away bottles that have been keeping the pesticides? Where do we throw them? You find them in landfills, you find them in our water sources, you find them all over. And what does this mean? You see the women right there picking them, and they're going probably to pack juice, to pack water, and use them for other purposes. And of course, a number of studies have been done. One of the studies was on the pesticide storage. Where do people actually store the pesticides? Many people store them in their bedrooms, in their cupboards, in their kitchens, in their vicinities in homes. You know, people keep these things everywhere and they have access to highly hazardous pesticides anytime, even when they are snoring in the night, etc. What about how do they manage the containers? Other people actually, if the bottle was big, let us say it was a jerry can, after removing the chemical, they start using it for carrying water. Others cut those jerry cans and start washing clothes. Others, they burn them, others bury them, others put them in containers, others. So a lot of mess when it comes to managing the bottles or the containers where the pesticides are being kept. So you see, the issue of sustainability is quite big. And now let me also a little bit quickly look at the available researches on women and pesticides. Of course, we know that women are usually the majority in the field of production of food, in processing food, in drying food, in cooking food. So at any one point, the women will always be having some bit of, they're at the forefront of all these things. But I just want to share with you the evidence available quickly before we can navigate in the next maybe 5 minutes. We'll try to navigate in some bit of systems here and there. One of the researchers showed that women who have more exposure to pesticides, who have been working in farms, who have been having a lot of usage of pesticides, they have longer menstrual cycles as compared to those who are not. But also, they say they have increased odds of missed periods, meaning that your month has come, but then you end up missing your periods. Why? Because of what I talked about earlier, that these highly hazardous pesticides can actually be endocrine disruptors. So they can disrupt your hormonal stores, they can affect your hormones. And so that's why you see that people will have longer menstrual cycles, others will miss their periods, and then others, if they don't have long prolonged ones, they can have intermenstrual bleeding, meaning that in between your periods there's a whole kind of massive bleeding that happens even when you're not actually in your periods. So that is one effect that we could document in this particular study. There is a lot of evidence on fertility issues, how actually women who are more exposed to chemicals, especially highly hazardous pesticides, how they are more, they end up getting some infertility, they have low birth weight children, they have abnormal birth, all those statistics, you can see them there. They have preterm babies, and then also they can have stillbirth. Stillbirth means that you give birth to a child who's already dead. So something of the sort. So those are some available evidence that we can use. But also there's evidence on miscarriages, that women who have had more exposure to highly hazardous pesticides in their fields, whatever, they have a higher risk of miscarriages. So just imagine someone is pregnant and they cannot sustain their pregnancy and they just lose a pregnancy just because of the exposure rate that they have, something of the sort. And then a lot of evidence really are available on pesticides and miscarriages. There's also evidence on preterm birth, that women who have actually been exposed to highly hazardous pesticides actually have a tenfold increase in terms of the risk to preterm birth. So they are likely to give birth to children before the 9 months elapse. And then also we have seen other studies that are talking about birth defects, association of pesticide exposure with human congenital abnormalities. This was a review actually of 94 articles that have been published in Africa that focused on association of pesticide exposure with human congenital abnormalities. So we see that some children are being born with neurotube defects. The head is big, they have their spine is not well developed, etc. And also we've seen that others have urogenital challenges. Someone is born without private parts, or the private parts on the side, or maybe they are not, those issues. But also cardiac abnormalities. Someone's heart has a hole, the other one is blue, the other one is whatever. All those cardiac abnormalities have been associated also with highly hazardous pesticide use. We also see that there's a lot of studies to do with, I think this was about mental health issues. There's a study that was showing a relationship between the women who had exposure and then their respiratory health. So issues of asthma, actually asthma has been suggestively put by research that has an association with overuse of pesticides, especially the highly hazardous pesticides. So when I told you earlier that they are fatal when This is what I was talking about. There's also this particular study that showed that actually children, especially boys who were born by mothers, and these mothers had exposure to pesticides during pregnancy or during the time they were taking care of the children, the children grow with they always experience headaches, severe headaches, but also others have neurocongenital effects like they are not able to they have impaired memory, they have learning challenges, they are slow in terms of motor. So you're supposed to crawl, they don't crawl at the time. You're supposed to start walking, they don't walk at the right time. They're supposed to start sitting, they're not able to start sitting on time, etc. So that was also evident there. We have also seen an association between stunting among children and the usage of pesticides. This is also a study that is very available. Now, data from Uganda also shows us that there's a lot of usage of pesticides. People spray, but they're spraying alongside water bodies, and so the pesticides are also very available in most of the water sources. This was a study conducted in Uganda in about 18 districts, but it was showing availability actually not just of pesticides, but of highly hazardous pesticides in the water sources in Uganda. And well, there are also studies on food, whether the HHPs are actually present in food. And yes, Ugandans, we must be knowing how we preserve our tomatoes. We just put mango zeb, and then the mango zeb, and people are eating raw tomatoes and etc. So you can see that people actually are getting this and they are eating it live there. And the other thing we noted that this study was also trying to investigate if these tomatoes are washed with cold water, with warm water, or peeled, is there any effect that happens? Do the chemicals actually go away? The research was showing that when you peel a tomato, 69%, you can reduce the chemical by 69%. When you wash with warm water, the chemical can reduce by 38%. And if you wash with cold water, the percentage reduces by only 30%. So in all three cases, you realize that actually the pesticides actually remain within the plant or the fruit or the vegetable. So people just eat vegetables but having high volumes of pesticides. I've also earlier shared this when these scholars were trying to see if the pesticides are actually present in human bodies. And one of the illustrative photos we could use to understand the subject is this one, where farmers just spray and then they don't have any protection on their hands, on their face, on their legs. So every time they're spraying, the chemicals are bouncing back to them. And what happens is that when they start sweating, these chemicals keep entering into their skin. Just like you can see those two photos, the guys are naked almost. The other guy is naked, and so he's receiving the chemical direct into his eyes, his nose, his mouth, his ears, his skin, his legs, all over. But also, the second guy here, you see that his face is frowning, meaning that he's receiving a reaction from that chemical. And then we can see that this study revealed that actually highly hazardous pesticides were very present in people's urine. So for instance, mancozeb, it was very present in people's urine. Glyphosate was present in urine. 2,4-D was present in people's urine. Pyrethroid was very present in urine, and etc. And all these are highly hazardous pesticides. And then, of course, there are other challenges. Other studies are showing that, for instance, when people have exposure to glyphosate, there's a likelihood that they're going to have impaired visual memory. This is a study also that was conducted amongst smallholder farmers in Uganda, but also it revealed impaired visual memory, issues to do with motor functions, issues to do with complex attention problems, and others, especially those who are using mancozeb and glyphosate, they were reported to have poor quality sleep, and others have a strong association with sleep challenges. They go to bed and, at the time of sleeping, they cannot be able to grab sleep. Now, having said all these things, I want us to, Mr. Chimera, if you can, I am requesting you that you pick up your phone and take a snapshot of this photo of that slide, because I'm going in the next maybe few minutes, I'm just going to share with comrades how this information can be obtained. So you could just take this photo of that of the screen. Let me know when you're done, so that I'll keep referring to you. Mr. Chimera, are you done?
Hold on. I am taking a screenshot.
Okay,
Hold
perfect.
on,
Okay, please.
and
Let me.
I will send it also to Bongole. so that in case you need to refer to it,
All right, yeah, sure.
yeah,
So
I'm done.
what that slide is showing, these are some that I just sampled from the Ugandan register and the Kenyan register. These are some of the pesticides that exist in these two countries. I just sampled. There are many. We're talking about 100 and so, if not about 200 or so. So I just sampled a few so that we use them for learning purposes. Now, what I want to do is I want to first stop sharing the screen. Now, I want us to, because in the media, I've seen in Uganda a lot of controversies where some people come up and say the civil society is confusing the population, we are deceiving people, these chemicals are not banned in the EU, these chemicals are not dangerous, etc. So, there is available information. The EU, just like I told you about the GHS, the globally harmonized system, all the information that you have ever heard about on pesticides is on that system. And this system is available to everybody. It's free access and is by law that everyone has to have access to it. So this information is available. So I want to quickly show us how you can navigate through, and you should be able to see that. So there is, okay, let me just see if I can take us through this. Mr. Chimera, you confirm if you can see my screen. Henry, let me know if you can see the screen, please.
Yes, I can see it.
All right, good. Now, this is the system that is used by the EU. So it is called the European Union Chemicals Agency. It is the one responsible for regulating, controlling, and whatever the pesticides that we are talking about. So what I'm just showing us here is that the information that I'm talking about, the information that I have been presenting and we have frequently presented, all that information is on this system. And this system is free access to all people across the world. Whatever you want to see about pesticides has been provided for. So for instance, if you want any legislation on pesticides, the legislations are here. You just come to the drop down of a legislation and you are able to navigate all those. We have legislations on registering a chemical, on evaluating it, on import, on exportation, on the chemistry. All those legislations are here. So you don't need to worry where to get information. The information is here. If you want to send out a consultation, maybe you want to consult on something about a particular chemical, the information is under consultation. A lot of information is available here. Now, if you want to understand a chemical, which I will focus on today, searching for a chemical, you can be able to search. If you get a chemical, you should be able to search whether it is highly hazardous or not, if it is burnt or not, when it is coming to your country. All of those things, you can find them on this system. If you want to understand a particular chemical, how is it, where is it made, how does it, all that information is available on this system. And this is where we get our information. So people who have been claiming that civil society is deceiving the population, they are not aware, they are not informed. So there is a gap there. They need to go back to learn these things. So for instance, Mr. Chimera, I am going to just first of all search. Let us try to search for some of the chemicals that you have taken a screenshot there. You just click on this guy called search. When you click on it, search a chemical, they will give you a drop down here, search our data. So you can search here. You can just come down here and you search for a chemical. For instance, let us search paraquat, which is part of that list. You just search paraquat. This is used in Kenya currently. They still use it. So paraquat, let us search it and see. Is it, what is it? What is this chemical? So once you search it, this system is going to give you the details on paraquat. So these are the products of paraquat that you can just, so these are the different products of paraquat. You see there are quite a number. So you can just click on any of them. You can just click on any of them and then it will give you information on that particular product. So for instance, this is the paraquat issue, and this is the warning that this system gives you. For instance, they are telling you the hazard classification and labeling danger there. According to the classification provided by companies to the commission, this substance is fatal if inhaled. You see, this substance is toxic if swallowed. It is toxic in contact with the skin. It causes damage to organs through prolonged or repeated exposure. It is very toxic to aquatic life. It is very toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. It causes serious eye irritations and may be corrosive to metals. It causes skin irritation and may cause respiratory irritation. Now, this is what the EU is telling us about a product that is being manufactured by its member. So it is, the information is here. They are telling you that this product, this is how it is. And this is the information, very, very available, last updated yesterday. So you see that what I've been talking about is just present here. They will even give you the legislations about this particular product. And, all this information, ladies and gentlemen, exists on this system, and you can be able to read for yourself. So when you start saying that the civil society is concocting things, this is the EU saying. This is the EU talking to us. This is the EU showing us a product that you have in the country that you are using. So this is one of the cases. Yeah. So we can, anyway. Let us also maybe let us look at another. Maybe let us pick one chemical maybe from Uganda as well. I know that in Uganda, for instance, let me check still on that list. Let us leave paraquat and maybe let us search for mancozeb. Mancozeb. You just type it here. Once you type it there, you click search. Okay. So when you click search, the EU will give you all the information. EU is very generous. It will give you information about this product, mancozeb. Just click on it right there, and let us see, what does it say? What does it say about the product? Quickly, what does the EU tell us? Say, okay, they even warn us, danger there. According to the harmonized classification and labeling approved by the European Union, this substance may damage the unborn child. You see that? May damage the unborn child. And this is the chemical that in Uganda, it is on all tomatoes in the city. But they are telling you, the owners of the product, that it may damage the unborn child. It is very toxic to aquatic life. It is very toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. It is suspected of causing cancer, may cause damage to organs through prolonged or repeated exposure, and may cause allergic skin reactions. Now, additionally, the classification provided by the companies, can you imagine? By the companies, now the companies that are making this, the information they provided to the EU about this chemical identifies that this substance may damage fertility or the unborn child, or is suspected of damaging fertility of the unborn child. Now, this is information that the owner of the product is telling you. Owner of the product is telling you, colleagues, this product we've made it, but it can cause this, it can cause this harm, it can cause this. So if you come to the properties of concern in this chemical on this other side, they are telling you suspected to be carcinogenic. I talked about carcinogenicity. It can cause cancer, but the owners, the EU, is saying that it's suspected to be the carcinogen, meaning that it can cause cancer. It is toxic to reproduction. That is the EU speaking. I mean, what other evidence does somebody want us to provide if the owner of the product is actually confirming so? Anyway, people may say that, okay, now let us check for another. Maybe let us check for carbendazim. It's also a common ingredient in Uganda and Kenya and also other African states. Let us check it. Carbendazim. What do they say? What does the EU say about carbendazim? Maybe they could spare us this one. Let us see. Okay. Let us read it and see. Danger, according to the harmonized classification, that ATP 17, approved by the EU, this substance may cause genetic defects What I talked about mutagenicity, when I said that things can alter our DNA, the EU is already saying that this substance may cause genetic defects, may damage fertility, and may damage the unborn child. It is very toxic to aquatic life. It is very toxic to aquatic life with long-lasting effects. Additionally, the classification provided by the companies, now the companies, identifies that this substance may damage fertility or the unborn child. I mean, so this information is very available on the EU register that regulates all the chemicals. So when I see people making noise that the civil society is whatever, okay, maybe lastly, let us check on carbosulfan. Carbosulfan. Let us see what they talk about carbosulfan. Uh, maybe it may save us something. Okay, so let us read about it. Let us see the details about this chemical and see. Let us just see. Okay, according to the harmonized classification approved by the EU, this substance is fatal if inhaled. Inhale it may cause you to die, or it can damage the organs. So it is toxic if swallowed. It is very toxic to aquatic life. It is very, I mean, now what else can I tell the people? Yeah. So anyhow, so we see that there's a lot of information on all those products, but of course, because of time, I am going now also to show you something else, so that at least you've had a glimpse of how it looks like. Now, there are pesticides which are called PIC. PIC means prior informed consent, that the EU has allowed their countries to manufacture them, but they are for export. Now, they can only be exported in these conditions, that a company which has manufactured it has to declare it to the EU and must notify the country where you want to send it. So for instance, if Germany manufactures a chemical and Germany wants to send it to Uganda, it has to write to Uganda notifying us of the intention that, hey, colleagues, we have made this chemical called mancozeb. It is very good. It's a fungicide. It is very effective, etc. And we want to send it to Uganda. Please, will you be comfortable receiving this chemical? Are you willing to use it? Now, the Uganda government has to consent prior to that chemical coming. The government of Uganda has to consent in writing and sends to the EU that we have accepted that chemical to come to Uganda. Now, according to the regulation on this, all of them are here. This information of notification must be 1 year before. So, for instance, if they're going to send you a chemical next year, 6 in May, by May 2025, that notification must have come to your country. Now, once the notification comes, the country that has been notified is supposed to respond in writing that, hey, we have accepted, please send. So that is what they call prior informed consent. You must consent that you have accepted to receive that chemical. So how do we get those ones? Just go to search. Down here there is something called PIC. You can see PIC, which is prior informed consent. Now under that, you see those bullets. They give you a list of chemicals that are subject to PIC, meaning that you should not send those pesticides to any country without prior informed consent, which is given 1 year before. A response must be written to the company, to the country, but also to the EU, and the company must respond. So there is a whole kind of agreement. Now, let us check maybe, anyway, under that, you'll even see export notifications where they have notified countries already that, hey, this chemical is coming. Maybe I'll a little bit explore that a little later. But anyway, let us first check the chemicals subject to PIC. You just click on it, and then they bring you a list. Now, when you come to this, you can just, of course, the list is very long, but you can just use a drop down. Under that drop down, you can check the chemicals subject to prior informed consent. You can check for export notifications. When is this coming? You can look at the import notifications. You can also look at the waivers. They also give waivers, by the way. So let us say we want to check the chemicals subject to PIC. Just click there. When you click there, they give you a list. This is a whole list of chemicals that shouldn't ever leave the EU before the countries consent to receive them. Now, this list has about 362 results, so it's quite big. But what it shows you, for instance, it will show you the chemicals which are severely restricted. If, for instance, you check, okay, we have the name here, we have the EC number, we have the class, we have annexes, we have the use. Now, I want you to pay attention where there is use limitations, that column where there is use limitations. When you check in that column, they will tell you this chemical is severely restricted, this chemical is banned, this chemical is restricted, this chemical is banned. So basically, they are showing you which chemicals are banned, which ones are severely restricted. So because they are banned in the EU, or because they are restricted, severely restricted, you shouldn't send it to any other country unless that country has prior informed consent. Now, what I want us to do, I want us to go to our list that I shared. We just search for a few of them and see, are they banned, are they restricted or not? Okay. Let us maybe pick an example. You just click on search there, come and click substance identity. We want to identify this substance maybe by its name. Let us say, for instance, we want to identify mancozeb, which is used in Uganda on tomatoes and other fruits and vegetables. So we want to see, is it used in the EU? Is it severely restricted or something? So just put its name there and say, okay, please give me the information. So enter and search. So when you search it, the EU gives you whether this particular substance is banned or not. So look at mancozeb. So already they show you here in the use limitation that the chemical is banned. Now, when they say the chemical is banned, why are you then using it in your country? Why? Because the EU has told you it is banned. Now, when Bernard and Chimera and the team come and tell you that we have products which have been banned in the EU and they are being used in Africa, people want to complain that we are deceiving. But this is the register saying, this is the register. You can actually even check the details under this column where you see details. You can just click on details and they give you more details about that substance. So they will give you more details around this. Now, for instance, there's a legislation text they put there. This chemical is prohibited to place on the market. This is the EU telling us. You get it? That it is prohibited to place on the market or use plant protection products containing the substance mancozeb because it is not approved as an active substance in accordance with the regulation that they are provided in there. So you see that there is a lot of information which opportunists don't want to read or they don't want to listen to the experts in the subject matter. So that is just an example. Maybe, well, I know that I don't know that is my network, but I need to. Okay, let me just. Okay, I did something weird here, so let me just put it again. But anyway, I think that should be able to show us what we are talking about. But I will be glad to still share a little bit more examples. Let me just share the screen again. Let me share the screen once again so that we explore a few things, so that the communities really know that these things exist. Henry, you should be able to see my screen, right?
We can see it now.
Okay, so I just want us to look for another maybe chemical, and also we search whether it exists or not. Randomly, we can maybe let us look at. Can we look at prophenos from that list? Let us search it. Let us search it. Let me just write it here. Prophenos. Prophenos. Okay, prophenos is right here. Let us search it and see maybe what they say about it. It is here. You see, also prophenophos is also banned. You see, it is banned. They are saying it is banned. Now, who are we to even complain when we don't know? When you don't know, you know, knowledge is power. You have to be knowing these things. Now, let us also maybe check for carbendazim. Okay, carbendazim. Carbendazim. Let us check for carbendazim and just see whether it is on the market or whether it has been banned or whether it is restricted. Right there. So carbendazim is right here, but when you see the use limitation, they are saying it is banned. Okay. So I don't know how many examples I could use. Maybe let us, just to avoid doubt, let us see atrazine. Atrazine, just type it there, atrazine, and say, please, how about it? Is it restricted? Is it banned? Is it still in use? You come and see. You see, the products in Annex 1 have been banned. The ones in Annex 2 have also been banned. So, I mean, I can't overemphasize that the information exists. Maybe one would say, maybe let us check the last one. Um, okay, which one can? Okay, maybe let us check. Maybe paraquat is still on. Maybe, I don't know. Let us check paraquat and see if it is still. Maybe it is still in use. I am not sure, but we can check. We can check paraquat. See, even the results are not there, meaning that perhaps let me see. Maybe the spelling. Let's check again. Okay, let us see. It is here, right here. So, I mean, Mr. Chimera, you can be able to see that also paraquat was banned a long time ago. That is here. So,
Yes.
so now, anyway, this is just giving you a little bit of a snapshot of where we can get this information, so that you avoid people who are not informed to confuse us, but also to give the viewers an opportunity to know that this information exists and you can actually navigate through and get everything that you need. Maybe lastly, let us check abamectin. Abamectin is a very common compound in Uganda that is being used in our country there. Let us see. Ivermectin, all of those ones, all the impurities and purities were all banned. You see, this is it. So maybe I know I'm taking a little long, but I want also maybe lastly to take you through. Not lastly, but I want to show you something here. You see, when you click on this drop down, you're able to see the chemicals, the export notification, and all these things and all these things. So you can be able to know how many chemicals are going to be sent to your country in a particular year. So what you do, you come to export notifications. If you click on export notifications right there, they're going to give you a list of chemicals. You choose. It can be summarized by year, by origin, by I mean, all of these things are provided. It can even a summary by month, when it is coming, by destination, by origin, by year. All of those things are here. But let me just maybe as an example, if you look at this register right here, just right there, you see that they have already given you the chemicals that will be coming. So for instance, a particular mixture will be sent from the Netherlands to South Africa in 2025. Are you seeing that? So you have the type. It can be a mixture or just a simple compound, which is a substance. So you have a mixture. It will come from the Netherlands. It goes to South Africa in 2025. So you can navigate and see all your countries. For instance, in Kenya here, I see you're going to receive a mixture from the Netherlands to Kenya also in 2025. So you can have this information with you. But maybe let me just, you can even summary by year. When you click summary by year, they just give you what is coming in your country in a particular year. So you can be able to see which chemical is coming in your country, how many are they. This is the register, ladies and gentlemen. So we don't need to confuse each other. But also you can have maybe by destination, summary by destination. You just click there, and then the register will give you which chemicals are coming, which year, where. So for instance, if you look at 2025, they're going to release 9,124 chemicals, which will go to the different countries. So all those are here. Your countries are all here. So there's no country that is actually missing. So it's usually in alphabetical order. So you can be able to see Burundi, you can be able to see Cambodia, Cameroon, whatever, Chad, Chile, China. So you can be able to see which country is receiving what when. So in 2025, you can be able to run through and then see what is coming to your country. If you don't see your country, just come here and click next. So it will take you to the next until you see your country. Just keep clicking next. So let us maybe check if you maybe let me use let me check Uganda maybe. Let me check Uganda right here, so that okay. So when you look at Uganda, Uganda is right here. Uganda should be right here. Okay. So Uganda is right here. In 2025, they're going to bring to us 10 different chemicals. The other one will be a substance, a single substance, and 9 of them will be mixtures. So we are expected that in 2025, Uganda is going to receive 10 high chemicals that are coming in the country. They might haven't come. But this notification meaning that they notified us last year, we accepted, and now it is ready for to be brought. Maybe lastly, yeah, I know there are quite a lot of interesting things here, but also you can know who is responsible in my country, who is responsible for who is our focal point person when it comes to prior informed consent regulations. You can also check it. So you come down there on that drop down, you see where there is designated national authority. So when you click on it, they will bring you the individual, even his phone number and his email address and his name and where he works and etc. that you can actually reach out to if at all you need more information on this. So for instance, this is how it is written. Afghanistan, they give you the category of chemicals and the person, the contact person. So maybe let us look at African countries like Angola. You see, Angola, you guys, your colleague is there. Let us see. Okay, let us see. Let us look at African countries. Let me just check out one. Benin, your comrades are there. There are 2 people, one for pesticides and the other one for industrial chemicals. Actually, you have 3. You have 2. And then, okay, so maybe let me also check East Africa. Maybe let me check East Africa. I can just check, let me see, Kenya, Uganda, Burundi, Tanzania. All those ones are here. Burundi is right here. The colleague who is responsible, who is your focal point person, which ministry he works, what are his contacts, what is his email address, and when he was actually elevated to that position. The date is at the extreme end there. So all these things are here. Cameroon, all the countries. As long as you're going to receive, or you are receiving, or you are subscribing to this system, you are here. I know that where I come from, I didn't want to go there, but let me also try to check for my country. So you just make sure that you don't really suffer locally when information is very available, and the EU has been too generous by law to make sure that this information is not hidden, and all the regulations are on this system. So there is nobody who should actually deceive you. So Kenya, the guys are here. There are also 3 guys actually, one for pesticides, actually 2 people for pesticides. There is Kenya Industrial Chemicals. There's a director there responsible for that. I mean, so this information is here. And the beauty with this system is even their names and contacts are here. And this information is updated to the dot. Actually, it is updated almost every day. There is a team that is updating this every single day. So this is the information that we have available. All your countries are here. So there is no reason whatsoever for you not to check who is responsible for the mess in your country, whom you can reach out. If you're a media person, whom can I interview in regards to this? You see in Rwanda, all our countries, all of them are here. The information is really massive. If you want to pose a question, this system also allows you, they give you support in that regard. So all of these are your countries with the people who are responsible for signing off those documents and who are supposed to actually make sure that we are surviving from all this. So please don't run short of information, and please be informed that this information is with us. It is available online. The system is for everybody to use, and you can be able to navigate it. You can be able to find which chemicals are coming next month. You can be able to see who is actually exporting them. You can be able to everything on this system. So for Ugandan case, you see that we have 2 colleagues. One colleague is Commissioner Crop Inspection and Certification, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Crop Protection. The contacts are there, the names are there, and he has been in this position since November 2022. but also we have another colleague who is a commissioner, environmental affairs, Ministry of Water and Environment. I mean, these details are available as possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know I have taken a very long time, but I think I should stop here. But bottom the line, all legislations are here, all consultations are here, all the chemicals are here, all the support that can be given is here. Even the correspondences that your leaders have been having with the EU on these issues are also on this system. So please make use of the system, navigate it so that you're not confused by the opportunists that are out there deceiving society and that are trying to create unnecessary excuses. So I think with those so many remarks, Mr. Chimera, I think you need to allow me to stop at this so that in the next 5 or so minutes we end the call and maybe people can go for other things. So thank you so much for the opportunity to to share the information, the little information we have, and we shall keep building on it. But the subject matter is about sustainability, and we need to care about the environment. We need to care about the health of our people. We need to make sure consumers are informed. We need to make sure that our countrymen and women are well informed on whatever affects them. And I mean, we need to make sure that the rights and responsibilities of each one of us are really up to date, and we are doing our very best to do that. So thank you so much, and yeah, over for now.
Thank you very much, Bernard. I would like to say, as I thank you, and I thank our partners, the Humanist Media Africa, for the extended time on this series. Bernard, greatly honored, not only as head of programs at Consent, but also coordinator for food safety, the Food Safety Coalition, Uganda. And what you have done today, and all of us watching and listening, it is in line with our programs. It is in line with our principles, and it is in line with our aspirations. Consumer protection, better business. Once we do responsible use of crop protection, animal protection, environmental protection, it will end up being consumer protection. It will end up being sustainability. It will end up being resilience. And that will be better business, businesses which will have healthy markets. And who are the healthy markets? It is all of us, the consumers. And as we continuously roll out on sustainable lifestyles, I trust today has been a practical session that will enable you. It has brought you research. It has done sensitization, that is communicating to you and making you aware. I know a number of you, me too, my capacity has been built. So with the three upper values, pillars, I would pray that from today, let's join and advocate for responsible use of pesticides. Let's advocate for elimination of highly hazardous pesticides. Let's promote responsible use of integrated pest and disease management. And let's use them as a last resort, following the cultural, the biological processes. Only go to them when we have no other alternative, and we are seeing that the economic benefits are in danger. Let's follow the good agricultural practices. Let's follow the good healthy practices. Let's follow the responsible use. Let's look into effective rollout, withdrawal, management and safeguard humanity. So I would like to thank all our producers, Humanist TV, studios in Uganda, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Senegal, Sierra Leone, and also in the UK. Thank you for the network that brings us together, and you enable us play our cardinal role of sensitizing consumers, bringing research, innovations, bringing capacity, and also calling to action our duty bearers, our legislature, our judiciary, our regulators. Let's safeguard consumers and we safeguard our economies. Without healthy consumers, we have no economies, we have no countries. Consumer health, consumer welfare is a barometer for the country's status. When consumers are poor, when consumers are hungry, when consumers' well-being is appalling, when they do not have good health and education, when they do not have employment, when they cannot have an enabling environment to think, when they cannot have sustainable cities and communities, when innovations, when production, when they are irresponsibly consuming, when life on land and underwater is affected, when there is no partnership, the country is not healthy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you very much for listening in to us. We will be with you next Friday. Look still at sustainable lifestyles once again. We will be digging deeper, and we are revolving around the SDG 12, linking it to 1 to 11 and from 13 to 17. The partnership that we are having with the Humanist Media Africa, we would like to thank you because it helps us, enables us, and bridges the gap of misinformation and disinformation. So we bridge the gap by providing the information, and so that the consumers make informed decisions. The advocates have got information to use to advocate and call to action. Thank you. I'm looking forward to being with you next Friday. All the best, superb weekend, and the best beginning of May. God bless you.